gem and buy me another. Those ruby slippers will be perfect on my feet. Want me to listen? Those earrings might be neat. I dream of a joy when my collection is complete. Diamonds help me to dream. Rubies help me remember.
Welcome to WhatAGem podcast of the world of jewelry and the stories within it. And today I am here with Cynthia, an incredible designer and gemologist, I think is the right term. Maybe I've used the wrong one. She can correct me there.
I started as a gem mine geologist. And so what I did in geology with dealing with optical mineralogy was a little different, but is more in depth.
More in depth there. Okay.
Yeah.
She is going to share some of her wisdom about the industry and her design process and her customers and her jewelry. And I'm so excited to share it. So, Cynthia, can you talk to me about the jewelry you create and a little bit of your background, how you got here?
Sure. I was always just really inspired since a kid by the riddles of the earth. I always wanted to know why there was a mountain here, why was that rock spotted, and so forth. And so from that, I ended up getting a degree in geology, and I grew up in Southern California, which actually is very gem rich. So it was very serendipitous for me to be able to even study geology and then in a place that was gem rich. And then I did my thesis in a gem mine in the area, which was the largest producing gem mine at the time in North America. Did some work in another gem mine. And by the time I got out, I thought, this is it for me, because it was being connected with the gems and the earth. And more than that, also the culture and the people, all the hands that the gemstones get through to be able to come to you. So I wanted a life of adventure. I wanted it of culture, of learning, of travel, of writing, of science and art and creativity. And I got all of those things by building my life around the colored gemstone industry and bespoke jewelry design.
I was going to say, when I first started learning about you and your background, I found it fascinating that you are a jeweler who has been underground, actually looking at the gems, finding gems, etc., seeing them all the way through fruition to people wearing them. And not all designers and jewelers can say that. It's rather unique. So do you have stories you can tell us about being part of that side of the industry?
Sure. You know, we all come with different strengths and different interests, and we all need each other, I think. But my particular strength is really learning my business from the ground up. What would I say about that? Did you wanted some stories of being inside gem mines, you mean? Or
yeah, what
okay.
can you tell us something about finding, or even just has it been something that you've explored, or is it something where you have gone to visit because you were curious? What part of your job took you down
Well,
into
I'm
the
always very
mines?
curious about that. And I don't want people to think that all you need to do is go into a mine and you're going to pull out a perfect gem and, oh, yeah, that's mine now. And I'm going to put it in a jewel. There's a lot of steps that you go in between there. So most of the time it's curiosity and feeling close to the earth and relationships with, you know, people who own mines or who are dealing with the gems from those mines. It's very rare that anybody really goes out to a gem mine and actually buys expensive things there. Maybe things, you know, I would always say to people when they go overseas and they're going to buy, if they're in Bangkok and somebody approaches them, don't spend more than you can afford to lose. So when you go to a gem mine like that, yes, if it's a big expensive gem, you're not going to suddenly give them $100,000 out at the gem. You're going to take it back to a place where there's an office, there's testing equipment. You could do your due diligence, because while going to gem mines is a really fun, fascinating, exciting thing, you can lose your head with all of that sentiment and passion. You have to also have one foot in due diligence. So you make sure that you're getting the right gem, the right price, so you understand the gem. You know, the light in gem mines, it's not really the light that you would use to evaluate a high caliber gemstone. one of the most amazing things about being in gemstone mines that caught me was that the first mine where I spent a lot of time, the Himalaya mine in California, where I did my undergrad thesis. Um, when you go, my light on my headlamp, that's the only light there was. It let out, the battery wore out sometimes. And so I was in there in the dark by myself. And it is the darkest, darkest dark inside the earth that you can imagine. I think it must be even darker than space, because at least space, if you turn, you could see reflecting objects or stars or something like that. It is dark, dark, dark. It's so dark in there that there was an area of the mine where the miners pried down a rock from the ceiling, and what came down were these newts with no eyes, because you don't need eyes down there. It is that dark. So if you're going into an area where you're able to find a gem pocket and you clean them out and you take all the material you find inside the pocket and put it into a bucket, because you don't want to be able, in that bad light, you're not going to be able, you might miss a gemstone. You take it outside and you wash it off. And as you're washing it off, for me, that's what caught me, because you're the first one to hold that gemstone, to expose it to the light ever, you know? So in that particular mine, they're like 165 million years old. You're the first one to do that. And it's not that the gemstone necessarily cares, but to me, it's like time travel. It is like writing on a star. It's light and color and crystallized form. And it hits something into me that is as close to eternity as you could ever get.
That's incredible. So how do you let a stone
That's why I
go?
paused at first, because I can get on my soapbox about it. I get so passionate.
But how do you let a stone go that you have found like that, and that you then maybe have, I'm assuming you've taken a stone from that all the way to a piece of
I
jewelry at
have
some point
before.
in time? Did,
Yeah, so some of the
did you
ones like
sell
that,
it, or is it yours?
it's really hard. It's hard. Cash flow, that's what does it. Cash flow. Because when you're in the business of gemstones, there's business things to think about. But yeah, sometimes that's hard. One thing that I'm really lucky about is that my clients, we tend to do work over decades, even over a long time. So if it's a particular gem that I'm really attached to, well, I get attached to my clients too. I mean, I get really fond of them, even love them. I care about them. And then I visit them over the years. I see the jewels, I see them wearing it. I'm going to be next week in San Diego, where I have quite a few clients like that. And I get to visit all of my babies and see how they're doing. And then you see the joy that it's really bringing to the client as well.
That's lovely. Because
There is oh, well, I'm walking the West Highland Trail at September. It's 96 miles by myself in Scotland. And so I found a jeweler over there who is a young designer. I found him on Instagram, and he does his metal work like out in the rocks in the open, making things. It's a very different style than what I have. So I'm taking a gemstone that I pulled, a pink tourmaline that I pulled out of that mine all those decades ago, and I'm going to pick up some rocks along the West Highland Trail there. And I've asked him to make a piece for me that has the California gemstone from my youth and these rocks that I tread over while I was walking through time. It's what I call it, or across the West Highland Trail. So there's a pendant that will have meaning for me.
that's lovely. And I find jewelry is such a connection to travel and to
Yes.
stories, and that process, and how something means something to you. And sometimes a piece is special because you bought it on that journey, and sometimes
True.
I find it's because it reminds me of a journey. It might be a decade later, but it's like, oh, that gives me that feel, and so it does make a connection. And you just
Hey,
described what you're going to do with another jeweler, but you've got customers, like you say, that you've worked with for a long time. Can you talk
mhm.
to me about, I know there's nothing standard about something as precious as jewelry design, but can you describe what a process could be? I'm sure there's many people that have never had a custom piece of jewelry made. So what does that process look like when you're working with the customer?
Well, there's custom and there's custom. That's not a standardized term within the jewelry business. So custom for some people could be just that, yeah, I like this ring you've done before. Let's put this purple amethyst in it. And then it's
Mm.
yours, and it's distinctly yours, but that not somebody's had to redesign the ring, re-engineer it, do all the model making and so forth. So that's one thing. With my pieces, they're usually more than that. Um, we would start with the gems. Well, you want to know the process. First, it's me talking to the client and getting a sense of the client. It's sort of a, if it's somebody I didn't know before, we would do it usually on Zoom, or maybe we've been introduced and we met person to person. All of the business that I do, none of it is in my office. It's all long distance. And I've been doing it that way for decades. So we've done that pretty successfully for a long time, not just since COVID. But it's a talk with the client, like what is your life like? Where are some places that have lit you up the most? What shape is your dining room table? Sometimes round table people or curved table people, they like more curves as opposed to something that's very rectangular and orderly. What kind of clothing do you like? What are your favorite colors? Tell me about when you were married. What was it like when your child was born? What was it like when you did something that you didn't think you could do? It's all those types of questions. And it might not seem like it has much sense on the surface, but the more I start vibing that client, it's like I can almost take in a lot of their essence and who they are. And then that forms a bank for me
Mm.
of ideas that I use for the jewelry. Like you were talking about when you were traveling, one client I was working with, I have this concept called a blue pearl moment. And a blue pearl moment, I'm sure we've all had them. And what it is, you know, those moments when you have, oh, it's like God pulls back a curtain and you could see into the inner workings of the world in yourself. Like everything makes sense and calmness and depth. And it's a tremendous understanding. And oh, and then that curtain comes back after a few minutes and you're back into this everyday world. Well, I talked to people about where were their blue pearl moments. So with one client, I was talking with her over Zoom, and it had to do with she was in a hot air balloon over the Serengeti plains, you know, in the morning for sunrise, and she was looking down at the giraffes, um, you know, walking over the Serengeti and so forth, and that she felt such peace and like insight and like, yes, all my life made sense. So from that, she had a pair of tanzanites that she wanted in a pair of earrings. And I thought, how can we, this is great because tanzanite is just found in Tanzania. That's where the Serengeti plains are. How can we work this in such a way that I don't want to make it look like a safari motif or something subtle like that. So I designed the earrings so they have acacia leaves around them, and the thorns on the acacia leaves are the prongs that hold the tanzanites. And acacias are what giraffes eat. They evolved to eat these tall trees and use, you know, get in and eat their tongues and move around the thorns. And we all have thorns in life to move around, don't we? So that's what we ended up doing. There's more to the story. But when she wears these earrings, it's like she can always return to that blue pearl moment. She always returns to that time and space. And I love it too. This is one thing I really love is that when I finally deliver the finished jewelry to the person, it's like they feel like it's always been there. So it's like it captures something of them. It is a true talisman, a true expression of something that's inside of them that has meaning. So with her, they were eventually going to go to her grandchildren. I knew about that. And I worked in the initials of the client and the client's mother on the back because we had diamonds from the client's mother in there too. So all of these things start forming a library of jewels that, you know, that's your life written in the language of jewels that is then passed down to others.
That will be a true heirloom. And I hope that
Yes.
I hope the story is documented for the next generations as
Oh,
well.
it is. It
Good,
is.
good. Yes.
It is. I wrote it. It's in one of my blogs, and then I wrote it for her. Yes, to give to the children.
Speaking of your blogs, I love your blog.
Oh,
There's so many different topics. There's not you know, one channel. We've got I think I mentioned to you one of them that struck me was a heavy clapping, because I was getting ready to go to a World Cup game, and I'm like, and I'm a little expressive, so I'm like, oh, I do need to think about what ring I'm going to wear, especially because I have one that I really like to wear that's starting to rattle a little bit. I really need to go get
oh,
that
be really
fixed.
careful with that.
And I'm like,
That started.
I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I cannot wear that. And then
It's
another,
your percussion. Your percussion is damaging your jewels. They rattle around inside those prongs, inside the bezel. The the shanks get distorted. I mean, there's a lot of damage. So that's why you got to clap with cupped hands or like this.
And I mean, that's really valuable to a collector to think about, and I appreciate that. And we're gonna share your blog link in the show
Oh,
notes so
thank you.
that people can find that. And there's a lot of uniqueness there, as well as in your jewelry collection. And it
That's why I did the YouTube series the year before on like jewelry styling and wear, because I did it for all my clients as a resource, like how to take care of things, how to wear them, things like that. What do you do if your earrings sagging, stuff like that.
and
How to wrap.
valuable stuff for us jewelry lovers, because you need all those little tips that you
You
can
do,
get.
because you want it to last, to be handed through the generations.
Yes, yes. Now, one of the things that I'm going to say appears to be one of your specialties is these convertible or transition type pieces where you will be able to give a better description than myself. But what fascinates me about them is it extends the wearability of your pieces. So a pearl stud can have various pieces to go with it, and you can exchange them and therefore wear more of your pieces more often. So talk to me about that, and we're going to show pictures of those, because it truly is a lovely thing that currently I don't see jewelers do much. I see
Because
it
it's complicated.
I see it more like in
It's hard
court.
to mass market it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like court jewels or something. You'll see this, but talk to us about that type of jewelry.
Well, if somebody's going to go through bespoke, which is, you know, like type of like customized, we said those terms aren't standardized, but you'll know what I mean. If we're doing something like that, it's not inexpensive. So if I can along the way, we can add in ways that they are able to interchange their pieces or get different uses from it, because that's the time to do it when you're making them. Now, you can't do everything, because remember, you're working with gold and gold is soft, and then we have to engineer the piece, and it has to last. It has to not be, you know, it has to not fail. You don't want it to fail. So I do work in engineering along the way. That started with like one of the first big bespoke customers I had was Mrs. Bechtel from Bechtel Engineering. They built like the Hoover Dam and the Golden Gate Bridge, the company. They're big engineers. And so she would really urge me, and she traveled a lot. And so she wanted to be able to do these multi-use pieces. And that really opened my eyes, working with her and her kind pushes to be able to design interchangeable jewelry. That really got me interested in that. And then as I started growing in my business and doing a lot of travel more, and I was more interested in jewelry wardrobing and how to wear things and what made sense, then I took it another level with the earrings, so that you can be able to interchange different tops and bottoms. And then it's really fun too. Like for people who collect jewelry, you don't want just one piece, but after they get a few different earrings of mine, it's amazing how all these different pieces go together to create different looks. It's really astonishing. And it's more of a reward. Like your jewelry should be fun too. You should be able to play with it and have fun. And it is a vital form of expression.
Now, you have clear expertise in colored gems. And I think that that is definitely a very popular trend. I'm seeing more and more of my friends. I'm definitely seeing younger, sometimes first investment gem buyers are going more for colored gems than they are for diamonds. But I'm really curious about uh, where that does that come back to the gem expertise that you have? Is it just a preference? I'm not saying that there's not diamonds in your collection, but color is definitely a huge part of your collection.
It's almost everything. I almost never sell a diamond, or hardly anybody ever comes to me for a diamond. And partly that's maybe because I don't do, um, unless it's a client that's established, I'll help their children, usually like first time married, young married people and so forth, because that's a different kind of a market. And usually the second, third, they even call them encore brides now. they don't need to go with what the culture is telling them they need to have a white diamond. They usually are confident enough to be able to go with something that's more individualistic, a beautiful ruby, a pink sapphire, blue sapphire, other types of gemstones. And then there's a whole category in the jewelry business called alternative bridal. That's what it used to be, which means anything besides diamond. But the thing is, it's like it's not even alternative anymore.
No.
You have people coming in to jewelry stores and that's their first choice. So for me, colored gemstones I'm really attracted to the variety, the colors, the hues, the tertiary cools, where they come from, all these different places. The that it's the market dynamics, it's just kept me really engaged for 35 years now. And diamonds just don't really do that for me. They're just sort of white and they're just sort of like something every person wants when they have made it big as a diamond. I can understand that. I've put them on before and the light is beautiful, but it's nothing to me like the depth and the passion of colored gemstones. And you did call them a trend. I would say it's a renaissance. It's not a trend. It's just because people are becoming aware of them now because certain things have happened in the marketplace to bring these gemstones, which are rare, to be recognized amongst the consuming public. So now that they know that it's here and that it's cool or acceptable, they feel safe to be able to indulge, into that world and really understand it and love it and wear it. I mean, how many people, when I first started in this business, 81, 82, I go around the country selling my loose gemstones to quality retailers all around the country. I could not give away a peridot. I cannot tell you how many times people say, ick, peridot. And now people don't feel that way at all, do they? It's because they become more accustomed to it, aware of it. They know what it is.
That's interesting. And I love that terminology of Renaissance because, colored gems have definitely been popular for a very long time, but I'm happy to see that color is being far more embraced. And
it's more complicated. So you need a guide, you need to work with somebody who really understands them and has your best interests at heart, not just, there's a lot of jewelry stores that, the diamond market has had trouble the last few years. And so they need to branch into colored gemstones as, their life saver to get out of the hole that diamonds have put them in with the onset of lab grown diamonds. So there's a lot of like Johnny come latelys moving into colored gemstones, but they don't really understand the market.
Well, and education is so important. And that's part of why WhatAGem I wanted to start it, was because I'm curious and I'm learning so much and I want other people to learn it as well. And, talking to friends, and I recently was talking to a friend that was going to go with her son to pick out an engagement ring. And she says, yeah, he thinks he wants an emerald. And I'm like, oh, no, you don't want an emerald. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my understanding. You don't want an emerald for an engagement ring if she is going to wear it on a regular basis, because it doesn't have the durability of a sapphire or other stones. And so if this is an active person and they're going to wear their ring, you might want to think about a different stone. Education is important.
I see a lot of people being, like wanting certain types of gems, even peridot, that's another soft one, opal I would think about. But I want to say with all colored gemstones, whether it's an engagement ring or something else, it has to do with your perspective of understanding the care. So like no ring, no jewel, whether it's diamond or emerald, if it's not cared for properly, is going to last to be passed around the generations. So I tell people that when you wear a ring like that, take it off when you come home. No housework, no sports, no gardening in them. Sometimes people think, oh, there's that slogan, a diamond is forever, or a diamond is the hardest thing, but that doesn't mean it's the most durable. There's a big difference between hardness and a durability and proper wear. Like, you wouldn't have fried chicken in a silk blouse, would you? No, you'd wear the right type of garment to be able to participate in that activity of frying chicken. The same with jewelry. So if somebody is wearing an emerald ring, I think somebody could do it successfully, but it's got to be, it wouldn't be me. It's got to be somebody who's more fastidious, more consistent, and always has places, or and her desk in her house to take that ring off. And, she's not going to wear it when it's moving day and she's moving boxes in and out of the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would
so
tend to agree with you. Yes.
lifestyle is important in those decision processes.
Well, it is. And then think of a faceted emerald versus a cabochon emerald. Well, the cabochon doesn't have those facet junctures on it that are going to be chipped and knocked. It could be a little bit, it depends on the inclusions within it, but it could be a little bit more durable.
So
Could be.
So different,
Could be.
but that's a valuable thing to consider, and for someone to become educated upon when they're going to buy jewelry is what stones, by color, by durability, by what kind of cut, what kind of setting, because some settings
I was going to
protect the
say that
stone
it's the
better.
setting. You have to also think about the setting,
Yes,
and
so
if it's going to provide more protection.
it's not just about going out and finding the prettiest thing in your price range. There's education that needs to come with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And understand.
And I wanted to ask you about a phrase that I saw a couple times in different writings that you have, and that is inherit the earth. To talk to me about that. Where is that positioned in your philosophy with jewelry?
Well, I started with the earth. I feel like I inherited the earth. But what I'm referring to that is that we inherit the power and the beauty and the history of the earth by wearing her gems and metals. And then we layer on that our own life stories. And worn through life, we imbue these jewels with our energy and then pass them on, carrying both the story of the earth and of us to those who come after us. And to me, our jewelry collection is a message in a bottle to those who come after us.
So I hope you encourage your clients to keep the stories written about.
Oh, I do.
their
And I help them
pieces.
sometimes.
Good.
Or I make little videos for them and so forth. But yeah, some of the clients, I've even written little books for them and the stories, because you want them to be kept. My mother was very involved in genealogy and family stories with me growing up. And so I think that she really has added to me finding that of interest, the archivist, of recording these stories. They're important.
Yeah, I have some antique pieces, and it's taken one piece because my mother and my grandmother have both passed, and I have this pale amethyst ring, and I could not find who in the family did this come from, because I never saw my grandmother wear any jewelry, so I knew it wasn't from grandma. And it took me a long time until I finally found a note in something that was in a box of my mom's that was which aunt had it and where it come from. And I'm like, okay, that I have to get.
That is so cool.
Get that documented.
You could even display it with her photo, like out on the bookshelf or something when you're not wearing it.
Yes.
I often add little breadcrumbs, follow the trail with the breadcrumbs. So I put initials inside and dates. I put underneath the gallery sometimes an initial too, or sayings. Like one of my favorite engagement rings was a year ago. The guy inscribed in it, "You lucky gal." So whoever has that ring in the future, they're going to know a little bit about their grandparents or parents' relationships and their humor, things like that.
That is truly special. Inscription is something that I don't see as often now as we used to.
I'm a nut about it. And you said that you hadn't seen, somebody wearing the light amethyst ring. I just finished a ring last week. In fact, it's going to come out in my email on Thursday, and I'll put a video with it that I made in Instagram on Thursday too. But it's about a client's mother who was given a ruby ring for Sweet 16, and she always kept it in the box. And the mother died 6 years ago. And you know how you think about things in grief, it takes a little while to get your bearings. And so we've taken that ruby and recut it and reset it. And so now the daughter is taking it out of the box and wearing it. So there's a whole story in there.
Yeah.
You might cry if you watch the video. I don't know.
Well, I'll watch it in private, but I will definitely watch it. And I was recently talking to a younger relative that has inherited a necklace, and she says, "I'll never wear this." She goes, "Maybe to a family wedding where everybody already knows the piece, or at least knows grandma." But I'm like, "Have you considered having it reset? Because the
Yeah.
stones are beautiful." And she's like, "Well, do you think grandma would care?" And I said, "No, your grandma," because I knew the grandmother as well. I said, "No, she would rather you wear it and love it than it sit in a box because it wasn't
Yeah.
your style." I said, "That's
They want us to love life and like not be sitting on the sidelines, but to feel, every raindrop on our skin and enjoy every jewel we have. So with her necklace, like if somebody came to me and was asking that, I want to see the necklace first and see how feasible, is it something that we could pull stone? There's certain ways to go with it as a starting point. But yes, I do think that if you're simply not wearing it, then don't just wear it to a wedding, a family wedding. Enjoy it every day. And that involves redesign.
Yeah, yeah, it often does." Um, Now, you've been involved in your industry and have been a board member of, I want to make sure that I get it right, the American Gem Trade Association. Is that correct?
Right.
Um,
Right.
Tell me what does that association do?
Well, they're involved with ethics and integrity in all branches of the colored gemstone industry within the United States, but are also an an international expert as well. So we're a group of dealers who have to sign an ethical pledge every year that things are represented correctly and that what business is done in a way with integrity. And that's what we do.
Excellent. And in that association and a few others, you've won several awards for your pieces, and they're beautiful pieces. I've
Thank you.
checked them
Not while
out.
I was on the board, though. I can't enter the contests while I'm on the board.
Oh, well, that
But
makes sense.
the American Gem Trade Association has every year, it's like the Oscars of the gem and jewelry business. It's called the Spectrum Award. And so there are different categories in it that change somewhat for creative jewelry design featuring colored gemstones. And then associated is a contest for gemstone faceting called the Cutting Edge. So yes, I have won quite a few of those.
And beautiful. The one, people need to check these out. The mint green tourmaline.
Mm.
And I was fascinated by the owl, the carved owl out of
Oh, I love that. You know what? I kept that
petrified
for
wood.
myself.
Was that
Yeah,
petrified wood?
it is the owl queen. You said, that, isn't it hard to let go of things? That one I didn't let go of.
Oh, good, good. I'm kind of glad to hear that because I saw it and I'm like, "Oh, this is wonderful. We'll make it."
Thank you.
I would love to get a picture of that to make sure that we can
Oh, I
show
have it.
people that one
And I
again.
designed that I did a collection based on lines from Mary Oliver poetry. So you could start with all sorts of things for, uh, you know, starting a client's mother, they would go every year to see Handel's Messiah, so we're going to do a ring and I'm probably going to work inside the shank, like musical notes that are from the opening of that, there's all sorts of things you could do. And,
So,
it's not like just, can you do it? It's that you connect to it and it makes you bigger. It makes you have more energy.
and that one I can definitely see how it would give more energy. I mean, that that owl has character, and knowing that it's part of the Mary, that inspiration from poetry as well makes it, as an author and a jewelry collector, that just gives me tingles. Yes, that's lovely. It's wonderful. Um, so I have loved talking to you. I know that I could go on and on. We could talk all day, but the podcast doesn't last that long. So maybe you can come back on another day.
I'd be happy to. If the party's over now, we'll start it again.
Yes. So I would love for you to share anything that I have missed asking you about, something that you just love to share about jewelry. Is there a story you want to tell about a favorite piece?
Vincent van Gogh said the way to know God is to love many things. And I think of that with my pieces, like I'm so close to all of them, all the gems. I have too many things I love to have a favorite thing. maybe it's the ones that I'm finishing. I'm going out to fly this ring to a client's on Saturday, and the motif that we made from it, it's with a Paraíba tourmaline, a real Paraíba from Paraíba, Brazil, not heated and so forth. And she's a widow. And so what she wanted in the ring was the story of, like chaos, and then how you can assemble order and continuity again, move through chaos to a new path. So I've captured that in the ring. And that's probably my current favorite right now. I can't wait to see it on her finger.
Oh, that's wonderful. Will that show up on Instagram, do you think?
It will, but not till I give it. It's
Of,
for her eyes first.
of course,
And then
of course.
probably next month, probably next month. But see, that's one too that you've asked about Bespoke. There is a gestation period with it. So you have a concept like that, like, my gosh, how do you pull that into a ring? And then you have to think about the different ways you could do it. And those are just thoughts. So you could design, but then you have to engineer it, right? And make it something that can actually be worn and be functional, and it's comfortable and looks good from all these different directions. And, there's a lot to do. It's not just sketching pretty pictures and making the jewelry.
Yeah,
So,
or popping a stone into some prongs and closing them up.
right. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just not my end of the business. Yeah. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, it has been wonderful learning from you. I
Well,
really
darn.
appreciate it.
I look forward to meeting up with you later, maybe in Tucson or something.
Yes, that sounds good. That sounds good. So thank you for joining us on WhatAGem and
Thank
sharing
you.
your stories, because that's the value in collecting and being all part of this, is learning from each other.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dream, collect